My presentation is on minimalism as found in Indian social morality. And my claim is that this brand of minimalism differs both from the utilitarian version and Michael Walzer's version of minimal morality. And my second claim is that a close look at moral values adopted by a society makes it obvious that the nature of moral questions and ideals depend largely on the socio-political structure of the society. And as Aristotle rightly pointed out, that moral values extolled in a democratic setup would not flourish in a totalitarian regime. Even the same sounding virtues would have different connotations in different political structures. We shall see that the modern practices in India, especially social moral practices in India too, are highly dependent on the socio-political structure and of the Indian society. And I'm going to give you a bird's eye point of view of almost 2,500 years. And for more than 2,500 years, the Indian way of living has been governed by two sets of moral duties enjoined in their ancient books of moral principles. One set relates to the moral duties of one's station in life, and the other set comprises a number of universal moral precepts binding on everyone across castes and creeds. And as you know, that India had always been a multi-ethnic country and has been subjected to innumerable racial invasions and was exposed to various political ideas. And it has proved itself the true melting pot of different cultural influences. And we find that right from the ancient period, even when the Aryans first came and settled in India, there was a very stratified form of society, and the Aryan society was divided into four classes, and say priests, warriors, farmers, and artisans. But that kind of stratification we do not find in modern society, but still we find that in every society, there are people, a group of people who secure intellectual progress. Another group is in charge of military preeminence, of defending the country, and also administrative responsibilities of governing the country. And the third class or third group of people are responsible for agricultural and economic prosperity. And the other class or other group of people, they belong to the service sector, who serves members of other classes. And so this was the kind of stratification that was there in the Vedic society in the early Indian social life. And these four classes were supposed to be complementary to each other and holistically contribute to the progress and prosperity of the society. All social groups, however, were not considered equally respectable or similarly empowered. Indian social setup in the Vedic period was not democratic at all. Like the society, individual life was also divided into four stages. The first stage belonged to the period of training and discipline of the body and mind. The second stage was devoted to family life. The third stage relates to a more detached kind of existence. And the fourth stage was devoted to attain a state of spiritual freedom when the person is not tempted by riches or honor, or is not elated by success or depressed by failure. In consonance with this fourfold division of social and individual life, moral duties have been enjoined in the scriptures, and these duties related to one's social status and station in life were different from the virtues which are known as universal duties and were enjoined by the scripture, which are to be observed by all across all classes and stages of life. Such universal duties include, virtues like non-violence, forgiveness, control of sense organs, non-stealing, mercy, truth, cleanliness, doing penance, meditation, and attainment of knowledge. And all these universal duties were guided by one basic principle, and it was this, that which is not acceptable to me should not be inflicted on anyone else. Universal duties therefore set the limit to the duties related to one's class or station and were considered preconditions of duties relative to one's class or station. For one is not supposed to violate universal duties in order to perform the duties of one's station. Now, there was not a single list of universal duties shared across board. We find a number of lists in different authentic texts and books of laws. However, at least 5 duties were common to all extant lists mentioned in the authentic texts of Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and these were non-violence, truthfulness, non-stealing, celibacy in thought, word, and deed, and non-covetousness. Non-violence is, is absence of cruelty, and it has been said that one is not supposed to injure, torture, or kill any creature or any living being. All violence must be discarded because it leads to sorrow and fear. It is not possible for us to shun violence altogether, and hence exceptions have been allowed in special circumstances, sometimes to restore peace and establish justice. One may take recourse to violence, but that too should be done with malice towards none. Though some compromises are allowed for common people in this respect, for an ascetic, non-violence signifies absence of enmity towards all at all time and at all places. Now, there actually was a minimalist turn at this point, because we find that all other 4 virtues which have been mentioned in the ancient book of laws and scriptures were said to be the elaborations of this principle of non-violence. And actually, they explain the essence of non-violence only. And these principles are related not so much to doing, but to being, to, attaining some kind of virtues. And therefore, the social morality and also individual morality in the Indian scenario was in the line of virtue ethics. But in spite of that, all these precepts can be formulated in terms of rights and duties too. For example, the right of living involves the duty to respect the life of others. Similarly, the right to search for the highest truth implies the duty of truthfulness. The right to possess any object signifies the duty to respect the belongings of others. And the right to enjoy the pleasure of living involves the duty to recognize the same rights in respect of others. Likewise, the right to maintain self-respect involves the duty of avoiding hoarding of unnecessary goods and disrespecting others. Though these principles or precepts primarily denote the individual code of conduct, the concept have been interpreted as 5 principles of the International Code of Conduct among nations, adopted in the Sino-Indian Agreement on Tibet in 1954 and in the Afro-Asian Summit of 1955. At the level of nations, the precepts signify non-aggression, equality, the mutual benefit, mutual respect for each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty, non-interference in others' internal affairs, and peaceful coexistence. Now, all these 5 principles, as I have said, can be reduced to the single principle of non-violence, in the sense that all the other precepts really elaborates the essence of non-violence. And it has been said that only a self-disciplined and non-selfish person can be truly non-violent. So if we carefully analyze the concept of non-violence in the traditional sense, or in its modern version, it becomes obvious that a modern theory developed around this minimal principle of non-violence is not a pure and simple minimalist ethic in the utilitarian sense. As Gandhi has put succinctly, non-violence is not only non-killing or non-injury, it is an inner feeling of the mind and heart. It means the largest love and greatest charity. It is a dynamic living force, an instrument in the struggle for justice and freedom. This irreducible Gandhian principle, not to let anyone suffer, resonates the spirit of the hymn of the Vedas and also the agamas of the Jainas, where it has been said, may everybody be happy, may all be free from ailments, may all see what is auspicious, and may no one suffer from sorrow. Now, this theory cannot be branded minimalist in the utilitarian sense, because here the proponents are aiming at the highest good for all through love and selfless service, and not merely the greatest good of the greatest number. In the introduction, I have observed that following Aristotle, that moral values of a society depends on its political structure. And we have seen that during the Aryan period, there was a top-down structure, and therefore the values that were extolled were not democratic values. During the Buddhist period, when the city-states, democratic city-states developed, we find the tilt towards egalitarian virtues or values being upheld. And now modern India is a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic with a parliamentary system of government. Multiracial and multicultural population of India possesses diverse beliefs and diverse values. But the question is, how does this universal principle of non-violence in the form of injunction not to let anyone suffer appear to this diverse population? Here, Walser's distinction between thick and thin morality comes in handy. Indian citizens belonging to different ethnic and language groups may begin with a thick conception of non-violence, elaborated and adopted differently within groups, in consonance with their lived experience. But to engage in meaningful discourse or to initiate fruitful interactions across groups, nationally or internationally, they must have access to a thin concept of non-violence or non-aggression, along with its positive connotation of love, selfless service, and empathy, thus ensuring solidarity among the people of India as well as people across border. But there is no universal rule which gives access to this thin concept of morality, nor is there even any thumb rule. Each and every individual has to hit upon this thin principle of non-violence in his or her own way, taking in his or her stride all kinds of situational constraints. But the minimum condition, I think, for attaining the understanding of this kind of thin morality is to leave open the possibility of dialogue across cultures and across nations in all situations, and to have respect for others. Thank you. That's the summary of my paper.